Can I tell the difference between a $20 bottle of whiskey and an $800 bottle of whiskey? I hope so. If not, I wasted a lot of money. Welcome to Average Joe's Whiskey. My name is Joe. So today we're gonna do a fun experiment. We have 3 different whiskeys here. Same mash bill, similar proof points, just very different price range and very different ages too. So first we have the Benchmark Full Proof. These sell from like 20 to 30 bucks and are roughly 3 to 4 years old. Stagg, this particular batch is 23C, comes in at 125.9 proof. These are around 8 to 9 years old. Retail price around 60 bucks, but you will regularly see them on the secondary market for 150 bucks or higher. And last we have George T. Stagg. This is a 2017, comes in at 129.2 proof. So all in that 125 to 130 proof range. These bottles now sell for around $150 retail, but the secondary value for this particular bottle is around 800 bucks. A lot of people yelled at me for calling it a $1,000 bottle in a short that I put out. So 800 I think is a more fair price point. But if you don't live in a control state, the secondary prices are just the prices. Don't yell at me about it. So I've never blinded these 3 before. I'm really curious to see how this is gonna turn out. Maybe I wasted a bunch of money on all the Staggs and GTSs, and we should all just be drinking Benchmark Full Proof. Who knows? Anyway, I got these poured behind me. Let's get into it. All right, let's mix them up real quick. Perfect. You might have noticed that I'm using new glasses. These are Whiskey glasses. They're a lot heavier, made of crystal, I think. I feel like they nose and taste pretty much the same as a Glencairn, just with a little more weight and sturdiness to them. If you want to pick some up, there's a link in the description and it'll give you 20% off. All right, I'm gonna go through and just nose these real quick. Very nice. Caramelly. Oh wow. Caramel. Might be in trouble here, guys. Okay. There's some oak on this. Shit. These are much closer than I expected. And there's a real possibility I'm gonna look like a dumbass at the end of this video. A real possibility. Truthfully, I guess there's a real possibility that I'm gonna look like a dumbass regardless of what I'm doing. So let's just drink the whiskey. All right, glass number 1. I mean, just on the nose, I figured the Benchmark would stand out like a sore thumb, and on first inspection, it didn't. So I have to say that by itself is pretty high praise for Benchmark. But let's get into number 1 here. All right, so there's a little bit of ethanol on the nose, but it's mostly a really nice caramel nose. Very sweet, not much oak. Let's try it. Okay, really sweet on the palate. It is a little bit hot on the finish. Not much oak on the palate. But honestly, I don't get a lot of oak on most of the Stagg batches. Yeah, definitely not much oak on glass number 1. Let's move on to glass number 2 here. So this one, I'm getting kind of like a caramel apple. All the Staggs are heavy caramel. That's just the way Buffalo Trace does it. Kind of caramel cherry. But this one, there's an apple note in there too, which is nice. All right, let's try number 2. So glass number 2 has a much better finish. Sweet going down. You can tell that it's got some proof, but it does not burn. It's just really, all those taste receptors in like the back of your throat, they all light up. It's beautiful. Glass number 2 is really nice. Definitely better than glass number 1, I have to say. All right, glass number 3. Oof. All right, glass number 3's got some oak now. If I had to place an early bet, I think I'm holding GTS in my hand right now. Let's try it. More caramel, but it's kind of on the maple syrupy side. Caramel, cherry, maple syrup. Not a lot of oak on the palate, but I was definitely getting it on the nose. Yeah, number 3 is really good. They're all pretty good though. I might have unintentionally placed these in order, cheapest to most expensive. But let me go back through real quick. Yeah, glass 3 has a lot of complexity to it. It is really confectionery. Like it's got that caramel and vanilla and toasted marshmallow and cherry. Just like a lot of classic bourbon flavors. Really well put together whiskey. All right, back to glass number 2. I have to say glass 2 does have some complexity that glass number 1 is lacking. Yeah, that caramel apple is standing strong. There are some cherry notes in here, but I don't know, for some reason tonight I feel like the apple is more prominent than other times that I've had this whiskey, assuming that it's the Stagg. Let's try it again. So now I'm getting like a burnt caramel, which I really like. Like a charred oak, not like a soft oak, but more like a charred oak. Like if you took a caramel apple and then you torched it with a flamethrower for like 30 seconds and then licked all the caramel off. That's kind of what it tastes like, but good. I don't know if that description sounded good. To me, it sounded good, but might have sounded kind of weird to most people. All right, back to glass number 1. Yeah, so glass number 1 is kind of coming across a bit flat now. Now I'm kind of thinking that I didn't warm up my palate and my nose enough before this blind. Because glass number 1 is now kind of standing out as very ethanol forward, I would say. Definitely a lot of ethanol, but there are some really nice caramel notes. It definitely hasn't gotten better as it's been sitting here opening up. It's got some really nice notes, but when you nose them in this order, 3, 2, 1, you can tell that it's not on the same level as the other 2. But let's try it one more time. Yeah, it's nice. It's sweet. It's not complex. Caramel being that primary note there. Maybe a little bit of cherry, but nothing too crazy. I don't want to say generic sweetness, but more generic than the other 2. All right, so I feel like I can call it here. Glass number 1 in 3rd place, glass number 2 in 2nd place, and glass number 3 in 1st place. Now it's time to find out whether or not I'm an idiot and I have to quit YouTube. All right, glass number 3. If this is not the benchmark, I'm gonna have to blow my brains out or something. Benchmark foolproof. Thank God. Benchmark foolproof in third place. Second place. Second place, we have the Stagg. And your winner, George T. Stagg. They wound up in the same order that I put them out in. How about that? All right, so I have to say, despite it being fairly easy for me to tell these apart, to kind of figure out which was which, I have to say there is a much bigger jump from the Benchmark foolproof to the Stagg than there is from the Stagg to the George T. Stagg. And for me, that was kind of unexpected because I do really like oak. I'm a huge fan of oaky whiskeys, and the GTS being almost double the age of the Stagg kind of makes me feel like there should be a bigger difference. And some batches, I'm sure there is a bigger difference. This is just one batch of Stagg versus one batch of GTS, so it's hard to kind of make a definitive statement here. But I have to say these are all excellent whiskeys for the price. I mean, for $20 to $30, the Benchmark is, I mean, on initial inspection, it wasn't obvious to me which one the Benchmark was. It turned out to be obvious towards the end, but still, I mean, for 20 to 30 bucks, that's pretty good. Stagg is an excellent whiskey for $60 if you could actually find it for that price. For the secondary price of $150, $200, is it really like 5 to 10 times better than the Benchmark? Probably 5 times better than the Benchmark. Maybe 3 or 4 times better than the Benchmark. But George T. Stagg, $150 MSRP, I would buy it every single time I saw it at that price. Is it worth $800 secondary price? Meaning, is it 4 to 5 times better than regular Stagg? I don't think so. I think it's twice as good as regular Stagg. Maybe 3 times as good. But anyway, this was a fun experiment. Hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, take a minute and watch another one. I'll see you next time.